So here's the definition of a couple of terms. First, we have critical thinking, the rational analysis of facts to form a judgment. And then we have self-delusion, allowing yourself to believe something that is not true. And here are a couple of questions. Are flat earthers critical thinkers, or are they self-deluded by their flat earth beliefs? So I'm going to take a look at a couple of well-known flat earthers, and the question will be, are the bottom of these distant objects hidden by the effects of curvature or by an inferior mirage? So let's start off with Ranty, who is no longer Ranty Flat Earth, but anyways, he is talking about an inferior mirage and wind turbines.
That same effect will be happening to them. They'll be getting so small that their angular size will bring them, there we go. So their angular size has brought them so close to the inferior mirage that they just get lost behind it. So the stems are just lost behind the inferior mirage, and the paddling nature of the turbines. Obviously the smaller, the further away. And they're just getting that small that they're just being brought closer and closer to the inferior mirage, and they just get blocked behind it. And that's it.
You know, I can only shake my head in bewilderment and ask, what was Ranty thinking when he made that statement? Yes, there is an inferior mirage. We can see the bending on this blade right here and this blade over here. So what are the facts in this photograph? Well, first of all, I've drawn these lines in to show how thick, or I really should say how thin, the inferior mirage is. And then the other thing is over here on the right, we have two full-size wind turbines that look like they're right on the water here. Now look how long that mast is. Ranty called this a stem, but we can clearly see that this blade here would intersect about halfway on this mast. So under what logic did Ranty come to the conclusion that the missing mass is being completely hidden by the inferior mirage? Here is the angular height of the blade on this wind turbine. So this would be the location of that blade when it reaches the bottom. And you can see that it is below the visible water. And I mean, you don't even need to do this. It's something that you could have seen when you were there in person. It's not that hard to figure out. Now another thing I can do is take a copy of a full-size wind turbine and scale it to one of the wind turbines in the background. And look how far below the visible horizon the bottom of that mast is. So is hidden by the inferior mirage a rational analysis of the facts? I mean, let's be honest, I really didn't even need to do this photo analysis. Anybody that looks at this video, or anybody that was there in person, should have just been able to figure this out on their own. This is self-delusion, because Ranty thinks he knows the Earth is flat, so it must be anything but curvature. Next on the list is Phuket Word.
What we have here is a ship, and we can't see the bottom of the ship. So this is the usual argument that the bottoms of ships disappear down a curve in front of us. But all you have to do is just look at what's actually happening here. We have this obvious mirroring. We have this apparent horizon line here, and then we have mirroring of the ship. That is actually just blocking the rest of the view of the ship. This is so obvious, and of course down here what we have is mirroring of the sky. So we just have to look, and this is a natural optical phenomenon which we'll have a look at in a second.
So yes, Phuket Word is correct. We can see right through here that there is what he calls the mirroring or an inferior mirage. But we can also see that this inferior mirage is very thin. So the question is it hiding everything that we do not see?
Okay, we can see exactly the same thing happening here. We see this ship which might appear or can be said to be disappearing down some curve, but obviously it's further away, so the angular size is smaller, and we have this very obvious mirroring here between this kind of vanishing line and the horizon line, or apparent horizon line here, and that reflection is blocking off the rest of the view. It's very simple.
So again, he is correct in that we can see an inferior mirage that runs right through this area. But again, we can see that this inferior mirage is very thin. So you got to ask the question, why would Phuket Word immediately jump to the conclusion that this is hiding everything that we don't see of that ship? I mean, he doesn't seem to think that these ships are very big at all. Now you can tell that this is a bulk carrier. The reason being, these four structures right here are cranes. So here's three examples of bulk carriers with cranes, and you can see that these are big ships. Now take a look at this one in the middle here. On the crane, this vertical member is the mast, and then they have this horizontal part which is called the jib. So you can see in this photograph that the inferior mirage is right exactly where the crane jibs are. So I've scaled all three of these bulk carriers so that the top of the crane and the jibs are in alignment. And now it is quite easy to see that no, the inferior mirage is only hiding part of that ship. Most of that hull is well below the horizon. So is hidden by the inferior mirage a rational analysis of the facts? Not even close. But again, you didn't need to do the photo analysis that I did to understand this. Anybody that knows how big these ships are would immediately see that that inferior mirage is way too thin to hide everything that we don't see. So here we have another case of self-delusion, because Phuket Word thinks he knows the Earth is flat, so it must be anything but curvature. There is one thing that all flat earthers seem to fear, and that is the sphere itself.